And greetings from my kitchen studio in San Francisco, and welcome to BRC and Friends, a regular-ish 30-minute Google Hangout with me, Bruce Reyes-Chow, where I chat with friends and adventurers from around the interwebs. Today, I welcome to the show writer, author, and teacher at UC Berkeley, Kaya Oakes.
Hi.
Welcome, welcome. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Kai. Kai is the author of Radical Reinvention and Unlikely Return to the Catholic Church, Slanted and Enchanted, The Evolution of Indie Culture, and the poetry collection Telegraph. Her fourth book about faith, doubt, and non-believers is forthcoming from Orbis Books in 2015. She's a contributing writer and editor at the website Killing the Buddha, and her writing about faith and feminism regularly appears in many magazines. And again, she teaches writing at UC Berkeley. Doing a little research, she also has a Wikipedia entry, and so I'm always fascinated when people have those. So, when things follow you around. So in 2002, she founded Kitchen Sink Magazine, which received the Independent Press Award for Best New Magazine in 2003, and that was a print magazine. She edited and wrote for The Sink until it ended its print run in 2007. She's been the recipient of teaching fellowships from the Mellon Faculty Institute and the Bay Area Writing Project, as well as a writing prize from the Academy of American Poets. She's twice been nominated for the Pushcart Prize in Nonfiction. So Kaya has done quite a bit more than she actually let me know about. So this is awesome. Okay, before we jump in though, make sure you take a moment, check out all the links below, follow along. The links should be kind of down there. Follow along, share the video, tweet along with us at B Reyes-Chow and at Kaya Oakes, and Oakes with an E-O-A-K-E-S, and use the hashtag BRC and Friends. If things are working, you might be able to chat along with us. We'll see. And usual, our time is broken into three segments. First, we're going to talk about something near and dear to the guest's heart, and then a few extra things. We'll just talk about random other news and events and interests, and then I'll ask my kind of 5 questions to end the time. So we're going to get started. And so, Kaya, you are doing a lot of writing about spirituality and church and all those kind of things. Tell me what you think about this whole spiritual but not religious, the whole nuns thing. When somebody says that to you, what are your first words, thoughts when people start talking about that?
Don't panic. The problem is that I think a lot of people have this misperception that people who consider themselves to be spiritual but not religious, or I prefer nuns or searchers, that they're not necessarily anti-religion. They actually are really interested in religion, and they really like the idea of religion. They just don't want to be part of one religion. Some of them are interested in mixing and matching different traditions. So yeah, so don't panic, because I think there's this sense that if you don't make up your mind, it's all going to go wrong. But actually, in the last year, I've spoken to about 30 people for this book, and they all seem to be doing okay. So,
Well,
yeah.
it's interesting. I come out of a denomination, the Presbyterian Church, and I think our panic is based on survival. I mean, that really is what we don't want to die. So, I mean, what do you say to churches that really the only reason that we may even be interested in this group is because we see them as kind of future holders of the institution, or of kind of how we're going to survive into the future?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm Catholic, so I can speak to that too. And I actually just spent 2 weeks this summer teaching in Louisville, where your Presbyterian seminary is, and about half of my students were from the Presbyterian seminary. And we talked a lot about this question of, like, what if, Christianity, Christian churches as we know it, die out? Is something going to be born out of that? So rather than thinking about the death of the denominations, think about what do we have in common, and where can we meet these people who are coming with a lot of questions and doubts and skepticism? Where can we meet them in an honest place, rather than say jump through these? I mean, Catholics are the worst at this, jump through these hoops, and then you can come join in. So I think it's interesting. Like, I think we have to rethink where people are coming in, and just say, like, okay, here you are, you're skeptical, you have doubts, but come in anyway. Come hang out with us, see what we talk about, and just let people take their time deciding too, rather than pressuring them. Not that you would do that, or me, but
we would hope. It is interesting though. It's like I pastored a church in San Francisco that was mostly young adults, and folks are like, it's like the big unicorn that we're all searching for. This young adults, high disposable income, well educated, kind of, and how do we get them into our church? And we're all trying to figure out like it seems like we're living in the 80s and the 90s where you had the 5 steps to achieve something, and everybody's looking for what's the magic formula to get this perceived group into the church. And
right.
Have you seen that in the Catholic Church? I mean, it doesn't. How does the Catholic Church approach this group in general?
They don't, and I mean I admit that freely. They try things. The Archbishop of San Francisco, just opened a center with an air hockey table. That was his solution, and so that just shows you how out of touch the hierarchy is. I think a lot of people really like the new Pope, but they also like him because his message is so universal in a lot of ways, and it's not specifically like, yes, you can come in because you're Catholic, and no, you can't. But I'm in my early 40s, and my parish is a campus parish, and the young people come there. They come, they go to church, and they leave. They don't want to be part of the community. They just want to, get their mass cards stamped.
Right.
And that's not. I'm not dissing them for that at all. It's just that there's not that middle ground of like, we're not really building community in a really lasting way. And part of that's intergenerational. We need to have young people and older people sitting down together, but we don't do that. And I think that's true across many religions.
Right. Right. Well, as one who interacts with students all the time, I mean, what are you seeing on the campus, just in general? And who? Well, let me ask, who takes your classes, and how much do you talk about religion, and how, I assume that some of what you're learning comes from the students you're teaching?
No, not really.
Okay.
Berkeley is really a secular school, and I'm a firm supporter of the separation of church and state. When my students write about religion, I'm happy to comment on it, but we don't have, it's not a religion writing class, it's just a writing class. So they may talk about it in their work, but we don't have class discussions unless it comes up in a political issue of the day or something. And I think that's pretty healthy to keep them apart in a lot of ways. At that age, I think that you can get really overwhelmed by college, especially at Cal, where there's 50,000 people and everybody's barraging you with flyers on Sproul. And so for them, I think for some students, religion is just like a really private thing, and they kind of hold it really closely to themselves. The interviews I've done from the book were with people that I recruited on social media. I just sent blogs and tweets and tracked people down who wanted to talk that way.
Have you ever had somebody, come to take your class and then find out who you are and what you've written and be like, whoa, or that's exciting? I mean, now, any professor you take or teacher you study with, you can do some research about them and find out more about them. Has that ever been an issue?
No, it's really weird. I don't think my students Google me. And I don't think they do, because they don't say, oh, I saw your Twitter, or like, and I put my Twitter address on the syllabus, like, send me questions, and they don't do it. I think they want to keep me separate from like, I'm in class with them, I'm there, it's good, and then I have a life as a writer that's off the calendar as far as they're concerned. But I do talk about being a writer with them and like what it's really like to do it after you graduate. So yeah.
All right. So I'm dying to ask you, as you're working with young-ish, who knows how old these college students are, but as you're working with them, and I think we're a similar age, so we've kind of been around a bit now. What are your pet peeves about young writers as they're coming to you, and then what are the things that are surprising you about, like, this is really good stuff that the younger folks are bringing to the craft and the discipline of writing? As I know that as I follow you on Twitter, you kind of talk about both a little bit, but peeves and then what's exciting about them.
Peeves would be not doing the reading before class. Doing the reading in class instead of before class. It's a seminar, so I can see you doing the reading, But But I really like the way they write because I think that there's an excitement about discovering the voice when you're in your teens, 20s, 30s, and 40s,
Mm-hmm.
that they really feel like I'm learning about who I am as a writer word by word, and there's an excitement to that that energizes me in working with them. And yeah, they have really fresh voices.
Mm. So have you noticed, the whole Google's making a stupid thing? I mean, have you noticed people not being able to write long form or keep up with? I mean, does that play out for you, kind of in academic world?
Kind of. We talk about it a lot. Actually, my program at Berkeley is called College Writing Program, and we're the writing program. There's an English department, which is more English literature, and we are the writing program, so we're sort of where the rubber meets the road. And we talk a lot about digital pedagogy, so there's this emphasis on using social media in the classroom, using tools of things like blogging and video in writing and interactive writing. And so I think actually students are really good at that because they're, digital natives, and
Right.
so they can adapt to that stuff, whereas we're like lagging behind them trying to catch up. So that's something we're thinking a lot about, but we do know that it does impact reading comprehension when people read online, that they absorb less. There's been lots of studies done of this, and that's really unfortunate because so much of our writing now is published online,
Yeah.
and people are just skimming. They're not really going in depth. So I don't know how to solve that problem. If I did, I would probably make a lot of money.
Exactly. I love going to places and like, how do you do this? And I'm like, if I knew how to do that, I'd be really wealthy.
Exactly, right.
So, I mean, you're a writer. So for some of, I call myself a writer. I'm one of those that it's kind of weird to be that person. But what are some of your disciplines, your writing disciplines? I've discovered for me, I can't write every day in the same way some of my friends get up at 5 a.m. and write for da-da-da. What are the things you do that actually you found work for you as a writer?
Well, I don't have a daily ritual either. I find that really tedious to like force myself. I feel when it's forced that it's really bad a lot of the time. And two things really work for me. One is having a deadline.
Mm-hmm.
So having an editor who gives you a deadline. And if you don't have an editor, setting one for yourself, And then two is only to write when I really want to. And really have something that, if it's a book, an essay, a blog post, whatever, it's just I really, really want to say this thing, and that makes the work a lot easier. So those two things seem to help me be productive.
Right. So are you on time with the next book coming out?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think my editor's going to watch this, but just in case he does, yes.
Yes. It's almost ready.
Chapters in, it's true, and I have to finish it by January. So it has to be 60,000 words. So we're getting there, one word at a time.
Oh, I hear you. I found that I have to go away. Like I just go away for a week, and we'll get tons done when I can just, and we were sharing offline a little bit. We live in 5 of us in a 2-bedroom apartment, and I don't have an office, so it's hard to have any focus time away. So that's what I've learned about me. So let me move on to something totally different. One of the things you mentioned is that you were a music critic at one point. You're married to a musician, and you were a cellist.
Yep.
So tell us about that part of your life. What was that like?
Yeah, I started playing cello when I was like, good old Oakland public schools, right? When they used to have a music program. I think those have been decimated. I don't know in SFUS if it's the same thing in the city or not. But I just started playing in 7th grade, and I played all through high school, and then I got into, somewhere through high school, I got into playing in punk bands, going to Gilman Street in Berkeley, and had fun with that for a few years, and then played in bands all through college, started writing about music, and And then we started Kitchen Sink Magazine, which you discovered. And it was an arts and culture magazine based in Oakland, and it was the first Oakland-based arts magazine in the recent years before all the changes in Oakland started happening. So it was fun because it was like kind of a renegade thing. And then I met this guy in 1997 who was a drummer, and he was cute, and he read books too. So it was, it was good. All those drummer jokes, not true. And so we've been together ever since. So so music's a big part of my life still. I don't really play anymore, but I do listen to it a lot. So.
All right. So if I'm going to ask kind of the classic music you wish every generation would hear and listen to, what would those be? Because then I got to follow up on after that.
Okay. Let's see. Well, I'm going to give you a real nerdy answer. How's that? But like the music that, even though I spent all these years in the punk scene and wrote a book about indie music and stuff like that, the music that changed my life was Bach. And listening to Bach, and I think that everybody should listen to him, if only to understand like how complex and demanding and difficult and beautiful music can be. So.
All right. So if you were to get to know me a little bit more or follow along, I have horrible music taste. So I love pop music. I think somebody just published a list of the best schmaltz of all time or something. I probably liked every song on the list. But I grew up in the 80s, so I have two lives. I have this like funk kind of confunction, Lakeside, that great. But then I have this like Debbie Gibson, Wham, Katrina and the Waves kind of thing going on. It's great. So what are your guilty pleasure songs? The music critics' guilty pleasure, or songs or groups or artists?
Oh, yeah, totally. Well, being from the Bay Area, too, of course I love Journey, right?
Yes.
Like, you have to love Journey if you're from the Bay Area. And then I'm also from Oakland, so I love En Vogue and Too Short and Tony, right? And Tower of Power and, like, all the Oakland bands. But I think my biggest guilty pleasure is that I really love John Cougar Mellencamp. Like, that guy. Right?
So this is the difference. Like, that's your guilty pleasure. For other people, it's like Taylor Swift, right? I mean,
right. Oh, I really like Robin too. I listen to her at the gym a lot.
Oh yeah, Robin with a Y.
Yeah, Robin with the Swedish one. Yeah, she's
right.
Great. Yeah,
she is. Well, and she's. I remember when she first came out. She was a teenager, right? I mean, she was young when she first. Yeah. And has
she writes all her own stuff, and like so she's actually pretty talented. She's here I am defending Robin.
You never thought you'd get there on this show. Anyway, so tell me why you like Oakland. I have a lot of friends that are just like, Oakland is the place to be, and us San Franciscans. Yeah. I always tell people Northern California is pretty smug, and then it gets concentrated when you move into San Francisco. So why do you love Oakland?
Because it's where my family's from and has been for a long time, and then also I just have a lot of love for it because we were always like, we had the like crappy baseball team, we had the crappy football, the Raiders, they're the Raiders,
and they're still crappy, but
they're still crappy. We had the dirty lake that you couldn't, walk by without getting a smell. But I had a blast growing up there, and I love the diversity, and I love just the so many different people who live there. And of course, San Francisco has that too, but it's changing in both cities now. And it's really kind of fascinating to watch how fast it's changed, especially in the East Bay.
Yeah.
It's really within the last 10 years that people started going, oh, well, I don't know, move to Oakland now. And that's, it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to watch what happens if the economy drops off again.
I know we've seen in San Francisco kind of the gentrification piece going on.
Yeah.
How has that been impacting Oakland? Because I know folks have moved out of San Francisco to go to Oakland.
Yeah.
because not everybody can gentrify here, and so maybe we can do it there. I mean, how is that impacting the Oakland these days?
Well, there's been a big exodus of African American families, which is really unfortunate because it was a primarily African American city for years and years, and people just have left. I read somewhere statistics, something like 25% of Black families have left in the last 5 to 10 years, and that's just really sad. And also the poor people are getting pushed, into East Oakland, or it's West Oakland starting to gentrify. So you see, like, poverty just kind of gets squashed into one part of town or another. Yeah. And that means that the crime just goes with it. And so poor people are still the victims of higher crime rates. It's just a cycle. And the schools don't get better. It's just money comes in, but the schools still suck. And that's really unfortunate for the kids. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what we're seeing in San Francisco. Our population of African American folks has just dwindled, and over, I think we're at 12% or 14% now.
Wow,
same kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's hard. The church that I pastored for many years were made up of those gentrifiers trying to figure out how not to be that kind of gentrifier, and it's this real dilemma for them trying to figure out what to do, because San Francisco is a great place to live, and but how do we not participate in this? I'm like, can you not participate in it, being who they are? I mean, I think it's hard. So, tell me what else exciting new things you have coming before you these days?
Well, I gotta finish this book, and then and then I can think about my life. But I'm continuing to help out with Killing the Buddha, which is a really great website. The mission, it's been around for about 15 years, and the mission of that website is to have a place where people can write about spirituality and religion from the margins and ask questions about what religion means in a secular culture. And so I'm a contributing editor there, and I really enjoy that work a lot. And I'm working on a piece for America magazine, which is the Jesuit magazine, about a friend of mine who went off to become a monk, and in fact sent me this sign that's behind me which says "monastic area, please don't enter." Good for writers, right?
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm writing about him, and I'm really looking forward. I'm having a good semester so far. I really like both my classes, but I'm so looking forward to winter break.
Already.
It's like December 23rd. I turn in grades, and I'm like, yes, I see that date on the calendar.
December 23rd. That's like 3 months away, right?
Meanwhile, I'm going to Philly in November for a first ever conference at Villanova on Christianity, culture, and writing. So that'll be really interesting
awesome.
too.
Well, that's great. Awesome. Well, we're getting to the end of our time already, so thanks for we went kind of all over. I love that. So as you know, I get to ask you a few questions at the end of this, just kind of random things. And not even knowing this music thing, your first question is this. You walk out of the house, what soundtrack plays for you throughout the day?
Life is Too Short by Too Short.
Oh, awesome. I guess I want when you watch a movie and you're just walking down the street and everybody else hears your soundtrack. That would be awesome. And people would be like, "Where is that coming from?" Not to stereotype, but they're gonna look at you and go, "It's."
Yeah, exactly. I know. I'm wearing a button-up shirt.
All right. One smell that reminds you of childhood.
Dirt.
Okay. We can just leave it there. Something your friends would say you might be a little obsessed about.
BBC television shows, like any BBC historical petticoat corset. Right. Yeah, I'm all up in that. So.
That does not sound fun, but okay. All right, so there is a new movie coming out, the biopic of Kaya Oakes. Who is playing you?
Benedict Cumberbatch. No, I don't know. I have no idea. When I was a teenager, people said I looked like Winona Ryder, but that was so not true, and no one knows who she is anymore.
Oh, you know what? I had the biggest crush on Winona Ryder.
She was
Like,
90s,
oh
yeah.
yeah. I mean, she was my wife all the time. And she just played Spock's mother, right, in the new Star Trek. And my wife is always tell the kids, "Your dad liked her."
That's so funny. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I have no idea. I want to say like Christopher Walken, something awesome like that, like the most unlikely possible.
Unlikely person. Like, people are like, "That doesn't look like her at all."
No.
All right. Your last question is pay it forward a little bit. One organization that you think more people should know about.
Yeah, I'm going to plug Night on the Streets Catholic Worker in Berkeley, California. They provide shelter and food uh, to many, many homeless people. They feed people in People's Park, and then they also do sleeping bag drives. And then in the winter, they have a winter shelter, and so they could always use some help run by a great guy named J.C. Orton, who just won a Jefferson Award for Public Service. So yeah, so anything you can do for Night on the Street, they could use your help.
Great, great. I'll make sure I'm going to share those links in the recap. So, so we've reached the end of our time. So thanks for tuning in for this episode of BRC and Friends. Thank you, Kaya, for hanging out today.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, please take a moment to subscribe to the YouTube channel. There's going to be a little box down there, I think, at some point. And share the episode with all your friends. Be sure to connect with Kaya as myself. Again, all the links are located at the bottom. And so until next time on BRC and Friends, please keep talking because there are times when silence is not an option. We'll see you next time.